Welcome, everybody. This is Netta Pitt. I'm the host of the CISOs Current, a CISOs Connect podcast. I today have the privilege of having Grant Swell on the call or on the podcast, I should say. And today's theme, we're going to talk about. The episode is going to be securing digital ambition, the CISO's role in cloud driven transformation. We all know that we're doing that. And, I don't think that's ever going to end. So I think it's something that we're going to be doing for a very long time. So in this episode, Grant, the CISO ahead, discusses the critical role CISOs play in enabling secure digital transformation, especially in the cloud-centric environment. We explore how he blends technical innovation with risk governance and how security can actually support speed without compromise. So I am going to introduce Grant. Grant is obviously, as I said, the Chief Information Security Officer at AHEAD, where he leads cybersecurity strategy for enterprise cloud infrastructure and digital transformation initiatives. Grant brings deep expertise in securing high velocity IT environments and has reputation for aligning security with evolving technology stacks and business acceleration, as we all do. But you have a special knack at that, so we're going to get into that and talk about that. So I am going to turn it over to Grant. Any additional information that you would like to add, or anything else?
No, I think you covered it. Thank you so much for having me on today, and I look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. I know it's a little early. I mean, no one's going to know that it's early, but it's a little early. So if we need more coffee, we'll get more coffee. So I'm going to jump in. A couple of questions that I have. Let's start with, it's just pace, right? The sheer pace at which we are all doing business today is mind-boggling. When I first started my career, I thought I was in finance. And I thought, wow, that's like everything should have been done yesterday, and you should have known it 3 weeks before I even told you. Now I think we're at 3 months before we should even know that it's supposed to be done. It should be done. So with that, how do you approach embedding security into rapid digital and transformation and cloud transformation without slowing down innovation? Because that's like that thin line that we end up having to walk. And I think we walk a tightrope all the time. So why don't you give me your insights on that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's never perfect, right? I think we all are starting to move away from the security gatekeeping to security enablement, which is where we should be. Here at AHEAD, we really try to embed security early in that transformation process. I think everybody has that goal. Let's talk about security first. It's not always the first thought. And especially consider things like mergers and acquisitions. You don't have that opportunity. Things get thrown on your plate and you have to jump in. But I think if you start thinking about security at architecture and design, we try to work really closely with our development, our cloud teams to integrate security early, or really, especially when it comes to cloud and digital transformation, you have to be building security controls into the automation pipelines. You're building infrastructure as code, you're leveraging cloud native services. It's continuous security, not just a one-time, let's design it, build it, and it's never going to change for the next, 25 years while this system lives.
What? It
Yeah,
never
I know,
changes.
I know.
Forget. Come on.
Yeah. But I think it's like you want to make the goal is to make the secure choice the easiest choice. It hopefully, if you do things right, it should be a no-brainer to do it the secure way, and then just figure out how you align your security goals with that velocity that engineering wants to run at, because it is that automation. How do you scale your governance model? Like, it's avoiding that friction. That's the most important piece when it comes to a digital transformation, is really trying to figure out how you're there, you're part of it, but you're not slowing that down. And those are some of the areas that I think we see most to help really reduce that friction.
Yeah, I mean, and at a head, I mean, it sounds like you guys have pushed left as much as possible and continue to push left. I think there's that, and that's amazing, right? And we all wish we could walk into an organization that's already pushed left, right? And I think that's the hard part, right? Is for CISOs to come into organizations that haven't pushed left, right? And or are just starting that journey. And unfortunately, I feel like when you're on that journey to push left, there's friction,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so when you're talking about that, right, and you're talking about modernizing kind of a an organization and the direction in which you're going, how do you work with the business and IT stakeholders to drive that vision so that they understand, you know, unfortunately, no one likes change. And basically, security does change. All we do is change, right? And so, how do you help with that friction that is inevitable from change and inevitable when we're modernizing an organization?
Yeah, again, it's never easy, is it? But I think one, we have to realize that the modern CISO today is a business leader. It's so easy when we think about digital transformation and cloud enablement to really get deep in the technical items and focus on controls. But it's so important for one, the CISO to understand the business and how it operates and why it operates, and then two, be right there along with those leaders and building trust. We always complain about a CISO not having a seat at the table, but it's about influencing. And it doesn't matter where you report in the organization. You need to be able to influence to the level that's important enough to make a difference to the business. So, when I look at this and approaches that we've taken, it's not about, when we talk about risk, we're not talking about the threat intel or vulnerabilities. It's more about explaining how a security gap is going to impact our revenue. How is it going to impact our customer trust? Is it going to impact uptime? Whatever the most important thing is for the leader you're talking to. It doesn't even necessarily mean that those are the things you talk about with everybody, because you have to tailor those conversations whether you're talking to the head of sales or the head of HR or the head of marketing, because they have different priorities across the board. And I think you need to establish that partnership. So often, people don't want to talk to security, they avoid it. But one of our core tenets here is really building trust. I've been here 4 years and built a lot of strong relationships, which has made it a lot easier. I like to tell people all the time, I love this job. It's the hardest job I've ever had in my career because we're a consulting organization. I work with 3,000 really, really smart technologists, and in general, they like to think that they know how to do this job better than me, and some probably do. But at the end of the day, it's orchestrating all of that, and we really want to explain to the business leaders, like, this is why we're doing it, and it's driving better agility, it's driving better resilience, it's reducing our risk. It's not just a security metric or a number or a count of vulnerabilities, but it's like, what's that business impact? Because that makes our jobs easier too. If we're focused on the things that actually impact the business, great. We're not wasting time spinning wheels over here doing something that really doesn't make an impact.
Yeah, no, I mean, you make a great point. I mean, I don't know of any CISO that comes into an organization and everybody's knocking on the door to talk to them, right? I mean, like, oh, let's talk to security because, and I think that that's part of that transition that we're making, right? As CISOs, in the fact that we're not, obviously we're about controls because that's how you manage things and you understand if they're set right and things like that, but that's not what we're trying to do. We really are trying to partner with the business, consult, as you were stating, with the business to say, what are your goals? How can I enable your goals so that you can move faster and you can get to those goals, right? And I think, I won't take credit for this, but I heard someone say that I think the CISO now is the probably or should be the strongest business leader in an organization because security cuts across everything, right? So whether it's marketing, whether it's HR, whether it's, finance, doesn't matter. everybody's using some type of technology to do their job. So there's a security risk, right? So we have to kind of know everything about everything.
And it's so important. I mean, you implement the wrong control, or what we were just talking about, friction, right? You cause friction in a business process that prevents you from meeting a quarterly sales goal, or it impacts revenue by shutting down uptime. Like, name your problem; it's easily translatable into any business type or industry. But you absolutely have to understand at least a little bit, and it's difficult because you're also expected to have all those security answers from a technical level at the same time. So that's an interesting. I haven't heard that, but it's a really interesting thought. I'd like to think I at least decently know our business, but yeah, that's something I'll continue to work on.
Yeah, it's just we have so many hats that we have to wear, and it's growing exponentially. When thinking about that, right, and again, that partnership and that consulting, right? I don't know about you, but in organizations, a lot of people try to run fast, again, potentially not speaking with security, and they're in, bringing in organizations, they're bringing in AI now, in the tools that they are bringing in. They are, SaaS applications are proliferation across most organizations. Everybody's swiping their corporate card. Oh, I'm going to get the free one, right? And you're it's all over the place. So when you're talking about that type of risk, right, and you're talking about that with your business partners, right, your business stakeholders, how do you drive that information, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm never going to show up at marketing and say, I know how to make the best marketing plan ever, right? Like, I'm not going to do that, right? I know about marketing, I know what it does. However, right, how do you get those businesses and those leaders to understand the risk that we need to work together with them on? And it's not just about an application. Oh, it's, name application Y, that's a popular application. People don't think that there's a risk to that. How do you have that conversation?
I think that's it's so funny. I had a lot of flashbacks there of different roles in my career for a moment, but I think it's so funny because you're right. I don't profess myself to be a marketing expert, to use that example, but I've had multiple cases in my career where a business leader will definitely tell me how security should be, and why it's important or why it's not a risk, and that's hard. I think it took a long time to figure out how to translate that risk appropriately. I think it does tie back to, really understanding what's important to those leaders. I was talking with someone the other day, and we made a comment about how to really get impact. And I used to think, I had this kind of revelation. I used to think being the loudest person in the room is really what drove it, but it's really, it turns out trust is really what drives that. I think establishing credibility, understanding and seeking to understand, because in the end of the day, everybody likes somebody to ask them, what they're doing and how they're like. There's a little bit of a stroking the ego, I think, that helps in these cases, but but it is understanding and working with them together. Like, I think if you understand the roadmap of your business partner, and then helping co-create that balances what's the risk tolerance. Let's understand their strategic priorities. Let's balance what we should implement. Because I think a lot of leaders are really quick to jump in and say, well, we need to be at 1,000% maturity right now. We want to be a 10 out of 10. But the reality in security is that may be outside what is tolerant for the business, right? Anything, if you only need to be as compliant as you need to be, in some cases you don't want to be overly compliant. That just costs extra money and time and resources that we already know are usually pretty thin when it comes to security. So I think helping understand that, and then really helping them understand those risks, because they may be bringing these tools in and we have to adopt them. But I think trying to align as much as you can to a framework that's well understood by the business. And I think when you come to the table saying, well, here we're going to measure ourselves on a scale of 1 to 5, and our target goal is a 3.2. Now, I think if you can quantify control implementation and maturity levels, not necessarily the risk too, that's important as a factor, but helping people understand and they can actually look and be like, yeah, that makes sense. That's where you start building that credibility, and you can map that into any of these. So if you acquire another company, let's look at what the risk is there, and we can measure that. You've got a baseline of what's going on, or this department. That's the other thing I found too is honestly, companies are inherently competitive. If they see that HR's risk level is a 4 and suddenly they're an 8, wow, they want to drive that down really quick. So like without shaming people, I think there's an aspect there of transparent quantification of risk and not going overboard. Like there's a lot of different ways to measure risk in an organization, but you can do it really simply, which is helpful for the business leaders to grasp right away and not have to, spend 3 hours explaining, risk measurement. But I think building that in there, and just getting the most visibility you can. If a business leader wants to bring in a tool, it's not necessarily the end of the day, but we should focus as security leaders on seeing everything that we can, because at least if you see it, we can respond. And obviously time to respond is so important, and we want to prevent the next security incident. But if we see it, at least it's not a blind spot. That's where I think you want it affects your trust and credibility, and two, that's really what impacts an organization most. If something's happening and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody will agree, the hardest thing to secure is what you don't know, right? Like, I can't secure the unknowns. Like, so just give me half a chance, right? Give me, some tools. I'll just take a plastic sword just to be able to see what's coming at me, right? Like, that's the kind of conversation that I think the light finally turns on at the business when you can have that. Like, I just want to be able to see, right? Like, just come to me so that we can have a conversation. We know what's coming in. We know it's supposed to be in the environment. We're not thinking it's odd, right? And and we can then talk through that and then make a plan going forward. How is this going to be more robustly used? Right? Those are the things that, and I think the one thing that I would have to say, and I want to get your take on this, is how much of this job did you realize was going to be talking to people like on a daily basis and working through these things versus, wait, I get to play with some cool toys and I get to, make some, cool things happen and do all that. Like, what's your take on it? Because I definitely have my take on it.
Yeah, it's like you've seen my calendar. It's no, it's. I think it starts that way. I don't know that I even thought about it, to be completely honest. But it's that's the most important tool in the kit, and it's both directions, right? It's I like personally, I remain very technical, and I think that's valuable in having conversations. And one of my continued opportunities is not doing, but leveraging that to explain how to get something done, or instead of just jumping in and I'll fix it. But I think it is really really important. I enjoy it. Yeah, if you are looking to jump into a CISO role and you don't like talking to people, you may want to think about that because it's about the soft skills are almost even more important than the really hard technical skills anymore, especially when it comes to leading your own team, but also again working with those business leaders. And I enjoy that. I think it's we all want to be proud of the company that we work for, and I think understanding that business makes me even more immensely proud when I understand how the impact of security is really driving something in the business. It may not always be obvious, may not even be the focus for our customers, may not even be a product, but how is that really driving there? Yeah, it was definitely an eye opener, because the further along I go, the more it's just about those soft skills and explaining and doing it. But it's a fun challenge to kind of push out of that, right?
It is. I mean, I would have to say that that's like, I don't consider myself an introvert, but if you are an introverted person and you're trying to be a CISO, like you've got to understand that you're pushing beyond that boundary, because that is the day to day. You're on the phone, you're talking to people, you're in meetings all day long. And but I love that challenge, like you were saying, of breaking something down that somebody doesn't, you know, it's not their expertise, but I have to get them to understand, right? And understand what the impact is, what the risk is, and how we can do that together and move the organization forward. But I can't use all the technical, jargon. I can't, like, again, like coming into a board, you can't, oh, I need a new DLP tool or some shiny.
Right.
They're like glazed over, right? Like I don't understand that. What do you need, and make it simple, right?
Yep.
And I think making really complex things simple is a lot harder than people think it is.
Yeah, you're selling and you're negotiating,
Right.
right? It's never we never see a perfect security organization. If there is one, I'd love to talk to them. But there's always a compromise that you have to make. It doesn't always have to be a compromise of the security side either. But that's that piece that building that relationship allows you to find the balance with another business leader. And I think that's it's always that's what makes the day interesting, and each and every.
Awesome. Hey, this has been a great conversation. Last question, right? What if you had three things that you wanted somebody to take away from this episode? What would those three things be?
Okay. One, security can accelerate transformation. It's important to embed early, and build those relationships with the leaders. It's not always about the technical things. Two, collaboration you should think of collaboration as a control. It's important to speak the language of the business, and that's how you're going to be able to influence outcomes, and that's what will drive your transformation. And then three, don't get overwhelmed. Modernization is always a journey. Try not to boil the ocean, but just make steady, prioritize progress. And remember that perfect can be the enemy of good. We just want to make progress.
That's awesome, Grant. I mean, those are things to live by. Whether it's at a CISO level or whether it's in life, these are three
The
things that
mantra.
it's a mantra. I love it. But thank you very much, Grant. I really appreciate it. This has been a great conversation. Hopefully, we'll have you back on in the future, because we're going to continue to do these, and we'll chat about something else that's important and exciting and fun. But it's been a great honor to have you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This was a really fun conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today on the CISOs Connect Current, a CISOs Connect podcast. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Thank you.